The meeting of the Board of Public Works is Monday, February 26, 2024. We're meeting at the DPW Meeting Room, 965 Plain Street. So we have a revised agenda, the action items. Septic hauler permit renewals. Number 2 is grease trap waiver for Hannah Sweet Cakes and Coffee. We have a discussion, crosswalks, beach area, enterprise accounts, flooding on Country Way and Mayflower Lane. Number 4 is Berry Street, 40. We have the minutes to accept, February 12th. We have a superintendent's report, and we have the next meeting is March 11th, 2024, subject to change. Hi, Laurie. Do I have a second for the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What do you think, Laurie? You in favor? Aye. 3-0. Okay. Our first action item is septic hauler permit renewals. Let's go and see. Yeah, is that just 2? David, we got a David first. We have approvals from Flint. We have Jeffrey McKinnon. Okay. We have approvals from Flint and Sam. Okay. I read the reports from the superintendent for David Perry, Wind River Environmental, and Jeffrey McKinnon of J. McKinnon, Inc. There's a motion that the Board of Public Works to authorize 2024 septic hauler permits to David Perry of Wind River Environmental and Jeffrey McKinnon of J. McKinnon, Inc. Is there any discussion?
I don't have any.
No discussion.
None. No, I see it. It's all been all approved and vetted. I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passed 3-0. Okay. We have a grease trap waiver for Hannah Sweet Cakes and Coffee. What is that? What is that here?
Yeah, under number 2.
Yeah, I know, but where is the, you want to take it, Sean? You must have something here. Where is,
It's in Webster Square, number 11, Webster Square, Marshfield, Mass.
okay,
I'll read what it says in the basis for applying for the waiver. Under section 5, the amount of grease being generated from the establishment to be so small that the under the sink grease trap is deemed adequate for preventing an accumulation of grease in the septic system.
Question?
go ahead.
Aren't they on sewer there?
Yeah, but they also have what they call a internal grease trap.
No, but the thing is, he's saying septic systems, not septic system.
Oh, wait a minute, this is a line.
Are they on a septic system or are they on a sewer?
They're on sewer, yeah.
So it's sewer system,
She
not
wrote
septic
this
system.
though, right?
Yeah.
And
This
she
is
probably
mine
doesn't
right.
know.
Okay. I just want to make, so basically it's not a septic system, it's sewer system. So you can just make that edit. Just want the record to be right.
Thank you.
A lot of people would think the sewer is the septic, but it's not, it's a total different system. Both smells.
We're all learning so much about that.
It both smells.
recently, right?
I don't have a problem with this.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yeah, go right ahead, Dave.
Back when I was in the superintendent's chair, one of the restaurants right on in Ocean Street there, we did give them a permit for an under-the-sink system like this, but there were requirements, for inspection and making sure that we didn't have grease buildup. I don't know how that has behaved over the intervening years, which is now closing in on 20. And has that been checked on the, basically the operability of these over time and the amount of maintenance they need? I did.
It's a Board of Health
Board of Health
inspection. They do
Have-
it yearly.
Are they
Yes.
actually doing it?
That's what I'm reading, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I mean.
It says
so-
expected and proposed.
Well, you don't inspect them initially, but it's, over a long period of time, there's usually a fall off in the maintenance on things. That's the only reason I make the question.
My guys usually find it in the line, so I don't know if it's something they can do, quickly go down there and look and see.
This
if it's,
discussion I had, there was
an issue.
very little, and like you said,
Yeah.
it's generating very little grease, and it's the internal grease traffic is catching most of the material.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave,
I don't have a problem because they don't have a fryer later, they're not doing grease, they're doing baked goods. You know, if it was a fryer later and they were doing fried foods, I would be of the, saying that Dave brought up, the establishment that didn't have the problem, did have a fryer later.
all right.
And that's the difference.
Well, right here from the, install under sink grease collector and maintain the log book. That's the town of Marshfield Board of Health actions and reasons. So they have to maintain a log book for the grease collector. So if it's that small, and the health department is checking it, and they're keeping a log book. Any comment, if it gets too much, it gets plugged up anyhow, if they don't maintain it. So, what do we have to do here, Sean? Is there a
Vote on
motion?
it, whether you accept this or not.
Is there a motion that
I'll make the motion to accept
grease
the
trap waiver?
request for waiver.
So you made a motion to accept the grease trap waiver for Hannah Sweet Cakes and Coffee. Is that what?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so any discussion, any more discussion?
No.
Seeing none, I'll ask for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay, good luck there, Sweet Cakes. Could have brought up plumbing questions, but I didn't. Our discussion is crosswalks, beach area. So I believe that will be,
Me,
right, Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Shawn, in your packets, I believe Amy put the latest and greatest I found from Mass DOT regarding the crosswalks.
Right.
And if you go to the highlighted section on page 3B-28,
Yep.
crosswalk lines should be used indiscriminately, not to be used indiscriminately. An engineering study should be performed before they are installed at locations away from traffic signals or stop signs. So all the ones we have on Ocean Street are accessible by, if they meet the ADA requirements, like I talked to on the phone about this morning.
Yep,
So we put them where it's ADA accessible.
okay, so,
And there's a ton of literature here you can go through.
yeah. So they have to be ADA approved.
Correct.
uh,
In other
So,
words, you just can't go from curb to curb.
yeah, I understand,
Yeah.
because they couldn't hop the thing.
Right,
with the
they gotta
road.
be able to get around.
Yeah, so I got some emails from residents in Wexham, wondering if there's a possibility is to look at Wexham down on Standish Street, across, the East Street, you got different roads down there that, I don't know if there's any crosswalks at all.
I can take a look, and I'll bring Matt from the engineering department down with me.
Yeah,
See what we can do.
So from the public beach up to
like.
Winslow Road?
Yeah, like they have none on the corner
Yeah.
gentleman asked us Porter, and then you go east, or maybe every other street you could look at it. The one at Minot, there's a lot of people that come over Meadowview and,
Yeah.
Minot, so, you wanna look at that?
Sure.
All right, so our next meeting we'll discuss that.
I have an email too. This one is for, Massasoit and Ocean. Resident says they've been requesting it for a couple of years.
Requesting a crosswalk, if it doesn't meet the requirements, it's not gonna go in.
Right, so I don't know the background on that one, do
Yeah,
you?
I'd have to look.
Massasoit and Ocean? This
No,
isn't the
but we-
person that we had come in before.
I mean,
Last
Sean
Sunday.
can look at it, if there's something that can be done, we'll do it, or it was that, yeah, if you can run it
Yeah, I
up.
don't mind looking.
Yeah,
See
you know,
where
if
it
it's
goes.
maybe to a driveway, to a street, or something of it, because it has to go with no,
Yeah.
more or less a ramp.
As long as we fall within these guidelines, we can
Yeah,
do what we need to do.
okay, so we'll look at Massasoit and take a look at the ones from Lake Parker and Gilbert, and the runs down off of Standish that go to the,
Sure.
to the view. All right, crosswalks and fiduciary. Now we have enterprise accounts. That was my end. We still don't have retained or any, there's nothing much we can do here, because we don't have retained.
We do now.
What they happen to.
You wanna read them off?
Oh. They come up with the indirect?
Well, we're in like mid-discussion, but we're able to get some figures. And what we have right now with sewer is $1,644,362.
Okay. So,
You got that?
I got it.
Okay. Trash or solid waste.
Yep.
$1,325,317.
Okay.
Water, $1,513,575.
Okay. That's retainers? Yeah. That's what we got left over with all the bills are paid. Did they come up with any type of offsets? How did we do it?
So, we're supposed to meet, we met one Friday. We got a little bit of information, not much. And we're supposed to continue meeting on Friday mornings around 8:30. I was out sick with the
Okay,
flu.
yeah.
And now apparently the treasurer's got the flu. I don't know if he got it from me or not, I hope he didn't. But we are gonna meet this Friday.
Okay,
So I went to go see Mike this afternoon, and he said we'll definitely sit down and go over everything
are
Friday.
you going over direct costs too?
We'll go over anything you want.
Oh, I mentioned direct
Mhm.
multiple times. Healthcare is a direct. Pensions are a direct.
And I did mention that to him, he wasn't like.
Well, they should be direct,
No.
because according to the newer, it's the same manual for indirects.
This guy seems pretty sharp.
Is it the collector treasurer?
Yeah. It's just, we haven't really sat down enough, and I hope we can get a few more meetings in with them to get these things straightened away.
Yeah, I'd like to see them before, you know.
As soon as I find everything out, we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, all right, and go for the directs, at least on the ones that, down to the penny, they are directs.
Yeah, I wrote that down,
Yeah.
what you said the other last time.
I almost think fuel would be direct too, because that's done with credit cards, isn't it?
Mhm.
So add fuel in there. Healthcare, pensions. If there's a OPEB in there for some reason, that's a direct. It doesn't change any of the payments, but it changes how it goes into the general fund.
How it's
Yeah,
distributed.
how it's,
Right.
thing.
Very good.
Okay, all right, so that's enough on the thing. Okay, the next discussion, flooding on Country Way and Mayflower Lane. Anybody here from Mayflower Lane? See, we got the crew here. I put that on the agenda for us. All right, so now we got We got the troops here, what are we gonna do?
So this spring, what I want to do is find out where that main line goes across Countryway, across the ocean into the marsh,
Yes,
and jet it. I want to see how far we get. Excuse me, I still got a lingering cough. Once we determine that, I have a feeling it's gonna be plugged.
yeah.
We'll have to tear it up and put a new piece in.
And redo that whole area.
And I'll do the whole intersection over
Yeah,
repaving.
yeah, and then down country, because
There's a
that's
few-
really bad.
There's a few side streets that I want to tackle this year with the chapter 90 money that need attention. That's one of them.
Okay, all right,
So that's going to be a drainage rehab and some repaving for sure.
okay, and that, in the spring?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm meeting with the team, our group, this week to go over the paving schedule, what we're going to do.
okay.
That's number one on the list, like a few other small roads
Well,
still.
that's good, that's good.
And Ocean Street itself,
Oh, okay, although,
some sections need
yeah,
to be
by
repaved.
Plymouth and
Mhm.
there's some of that, yeah. There's some good potholes on this end of Plymouth, near ocean.
Oh, I saw them.
Yeah, but not bad the rest of the way, it's kind
There's
of,
a bunch of potholes around town we gotta
Yeah,
repair, we're just getting,
yeah, those
trying to
are-
get the machine back.
yeah,
There was, the furnace that go on,
oh jeez,
so that should be back this week as well,
it's
so.
always up. So we have discussion, any discussion on Country Way and Mayflower Lane, that area is a bus stop also, but it's really flooding out due to the fact that the stormwater drain is more than likely collapsed or plugged up,
Oh, it's a mess.
yeah. So, any.
Does that tie all the way into Bass Creek?
I gotta take a hard look at it, Rod and I. But
Is a section from this intersection up to Bass Creek clogged also?
that's what we think,
Yeah.
or collapsed.
Is a set of gates, fence, so stuff doesn't come back up when it's a super high tide?
Oh, I gotta unplug the line first and get it
Yeah.
to work.
Doesn't really, it's not that, the title doesn't really affect it that much.
No, it doesn't? Okay. So we don't get it back up?
No, there's a blockage down, 600 feet down, for then another
That's another problem.
1,500 feet is all fragged in. So that, any changes of tide that we see further downstream, it doesn't propagate back.
Yeah, so are we going to have to dredge the whole section?
We're gonna have to, yeah,
Eventually.
that's something we gotta do. We gotta find the funds to do that.
So, once it becomes clear, we clear out this, we're still going to have to clear out the rest of it.
Oh, we figured we wanna start here,
Yeah.
get all the road stuff done, get across into the marsh, then we'll take care of that afterwards.
Yeah,
It'll be a couple phases.
yeah, that was a tough fix,
But I think getting the water to flow at least out of there will help a lot.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so my point is, we fixed the plug to Ocean Street, we still have another problem.
Further out,
Yeah.
yes.
So-
But you'll see improvement.
Well, at
We
least
will
there'll be
see
some
improvement.
improvement.
Correct.
Yeah, they gotta get rid of the water to fix
You
it.
don't have to go fishing in the middle of the street.
Yeah, with a canoe. And
With a canoe.
open it up to the audience.
Right, fine,
So that's
it's
in
awful.
Brant Rock.
So,
Yeah, that's
so
what
I'll
I-
start on this end, yeah. Easy now. All
Yeah,
right,
I live on, right, there's one house down from the corner of Country Way and Mayflower Lane.
I didn't get
Going
your
towards the
name.
beach. My
Your
name's
name?
Dave Amon.
wait, a minute. Your name and address.
Name, Dave Amon, 61 Mayflower Lane. One house down from the corner of Mayflower and Country Lane,
Okay,
Country Way, I should say. And I've been there over 30 years, and this problem has been going for more than that. And I can tell because the storm drain at the corner there, basically when it rains, if it's a slow rain, there's a fountain about a foot. If it's a heavy rain, there's a fountain about 3 feet high. The water comes down across the street into the conservation land, then flows in the backyards of everyone between Mayflower Lane and Monitor to a little stream. And I know it's been going on more than 30 years. It was my sons, when they were 8 years old, and they're over 40 now, they used to skimboard down the street when it was raining. And that was 30 years ago. So I called many times, and one reason was that you had to get a pipe through the airport. And that pipe had to go through, and that's why nothing was draining. Another time, they said it was because the town pier, they didn't want to open the dam because they're afraid to close the dam, to let the water out. So I'm concerned that you're saying this is the next step, because it's been going on for a long time, is this step gonna cure it or not?
It's gonna help.
Well, the
It's gonna
drains
be-
are already clogged 100%, there's water up to the top all the
I
time.
understand that, but we gotta start somewhere. And we gotta start at the intersection and rebuild that section of drainage and get across Ocean Street. And then we gotta open up those areas that Robert's talking about on the marsh.
There is a pipe that's.
Why can't you tie it into the main storm drain system that goes down Ocean Street?
You have to say your name and address.
Ron Salucci, 41 Mayflower Lane. I mean, all our driveways are getting flooded out, the street is sinking again.
I don't know if that would be able to handle all that water, to be honest.
Well, why do we have to handle it?
You should.
But it's been going on, as Dave said, for as long as we've lived there.
Well, we're gonna do our best to try and fix it.
I mean, all the storm drains from up higher on Mayflower Lane flow into that and then come out of that and go down our section of the street, which we don't have a storm drain on that whole section, which has to be 1,200 feet long. There's not a single storm drain on that end of Mayflower Lane.
Here you're at the bottom of Mayflower, comes down the hill.
Yeah.
I see water coming out of the, one of the,
Catch basins there.
well, I do see that too. I live in the same area, I drive through that every day. But I see water coming out of a yard on Mayflower.
All the
Up
way
from,
down.
up from Tony, going up towards you, I think.
Yeah.
Halfway up,
Oh, Tony's going away from the beach.
no, I'm trying to describe where I see water coming out.
Are
on
you
the
talking
street.
about down by Ocean?
Tony's right in the
Surf
curve.
Ave?
Right, correct, and Tony going up the street, going away from the beach is, you were saying, Tony,
Yeah, no, I'm talking about actually Tony going away from the beach across the street. There's
Right.
water coming out of that yard.
oh, that's empty space there?
Yeah. I mean,
That floor, that's always.
It's an overflow.
That's where the
Something.
water goes to.
It
Yeah,
goes-
I know, it's an overflow from something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. It comes out and then, yeah, I've seen the catch basins rise up, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it goes across my street, it's across my house, it goes right across and into the conservation, and it flows big time.
No, it's, hold on, we got a question, I recognize you, go put your
Thanks,
name.
John. It's Tim Williams, 49 Mayflower Lane.
I-
In addition to that, I know in the hazard mitigation plan, we've had culvert maintenance that were supposed to be done for north of Monitor. And I know there hasn't been any funds for that, but that area is a mess. So the culverts themselves are completely clogged. So all the rain that's been flowing from these drains and storms have been going into culverts and they're not moving anywhere. So now we've got a water table that's significantly high in all of our neighborhoods. It's filling up our crawl spaces. Our sump pumps are overworked and the pipes are starting to rust and corrode out in all of our homes. So it's a significant problem. And it needs to be addressed rather than, in 2015, we were told that the drain lines were collapsed and that they didn't have the money, and the solution was that we're gonna pitch the water into the conservation land because that was the easiest solution back then. Now we're on 2024, there needs to be a solution here, and I'm glad that you guys are bringing it up and you're addressing it. And to start with the area that you're at, but we really have to do the culvert maintenance as well.
Yeah, I understand, Tim, that's why I brought it.
I agree. Thank you for bringing it up.
But Rod just addressed those culvert areas.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't even think I was on the board, and there was quite a bit of money spent, I think Clark was there.
So where we're going, there's a number of drainage ditches that need to be cleaned out, and we've met with conservation, and we're getting ready to file a notice of intent so that we can get some of those ditches cleaned out, and that's one of the pieces that we need to clean out. When Green came in, Green International, and I think it was Hayes, that was the contractor, came in, and we redid all the culverts. We only went up to just north of Monitor. So we've got to go at least another street or more to clean out that ditch. We also found a culvert that was heading back towards Surf Ave. And we need to look to see, where that's breached or where that's ends, where it terminates. Because when we came in on Surf Ave and did our work, we never found that pipe. So there's a pipe heading somewhere. It may just be a stub. And if that's the case, we left the stub on the new drainage that we had on Surf. So that's something that we would investigate, maybe coming back and connecting that through there. But we need to get the ditches cleaned out first, and that's what we're doing first.
So that's the next,
So yeah, we should be working on that
in the spring?
shortly. No, we'll be. Matt has met with the conservation agent already,
Okay.
and we're working on trying to get that filed with them shortly. I'd say within the next month.
All right.
That's the cleaning of the ditches.
Okay, all right.
Then the other piece falls right into it. as
Yeah,
well,
okay.
the streets.
So we'll just, let's see, what can be done. I'll put it on the agenda in another month, see, 5 weeks, and not just to let it sit, and just find out what we're doing. Or if something is going on really good, maybe we don't have to put it on the agenda. You guys will know, Tim knows, you can text me.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
One more thing.
Sure, go right ahead.
In that area, you might have a major liability safety issue too, because that's a bus stop.
Correct.
And in the wintertime, when it rains and that water goes there, that whole thing freezes,
Yeah,
the whole intersection, so the bus and the kids are there. And if the bus is stopped and a car tries to stop, it's not gonna stop. So there could be a big safety issue in the wintertime there.
Yeah.
So you should really think about it.
no, I mean, Sean, did I mentioned that? to
You did,
Yeah.
and we want to have that done before next winter, that's for damn sure, we want to do it this spring.
I brought it here before, and I said, it's a school bus stop,
Yeah.
something that has to be addressed. So that's what we're gonna do, that's next, in the spring.
Yeah. Just, excuse me, just as far as Country Way, I mean, can you go up as high
Wait a
as
minute.
Priscilla? Oh, sorry, Paul Farrell, 51 Country Way. So I live right on Country Way.
Yeah.
And part of the issue is, Country Way itself it's kind of flattened out, there's no peak in the road, there's no berms along the side of the road. So, even if you, fill it, I mean, it's a big pool that ends up being there. But it's not like the water is directed into the catch basins.
That would all be changed when we redid the intersection.
Okay, but I need you to go higher up on the hill, because I live in the corner of Novato and Country Way, and it comes down Country Way, and then turns down
Well, we'll probably go,
Nevada, and then goes through my backyard, and then the water you're talking about that's leaking out toward the street is probably coming out that way.
That's good.
So, I mean, because Nevada is lower than Country Way, so it ends up coming around the corner there. So you really need to look at the whole street and put a peak and make sure we're directing the water into the catch basins.
well, we gotta look at a lot of the streets, because I know Mayflower's underwater 90% of the time.
Yeah.
It's a very low area, there's no place for the water to go, to be honest with you. We've had a lot of rain, but we gotta try and figure out a way to shed the water one way to get it out and not affect everybody. So it's gonna be a good sized job, but it's one that we've got lined up for this spring.
Yeah, because I know up on Priscilla, the corner of Priscilla and Country Way, they redid some of the catch basins there. But truthfully, they put them out, and the water half time goes past it because it's not directed.
I wash it go right by the drain.
Yeah, so,
You did a quick fix 15, 20 years ago. Mayflower Lane on the corner, you had paved it and tilted it all towards the conservation land. So it'd stay, and when it came out of the drain, it would roll into the conservation land. So that helped a little bit from rolling down our
Now
driveway.
it's all plugged up.
But not yet, now it's still backing up. So it worked for a while.
No, I've driven down there. I got back here 4 months ago. Took a leave and went somewhere else, but nonetheless, I went down there last time it rained. I was like, oh boy. I got some pictures from Tim and a few other people, and it's something that we put on the high on the list, like number 1 to get done. We had the money to do it, so we're gonna get it fixed.
Okay. All right. We're gonna go on to the discussion of the Ferry Street 40B. And We got a lot of information on that. You wanna take that, Sean, and then I think Dave wants to weigh in on some of that.
David, you want to go first, by all means.
Well, basically, I have what amounts to a couple of questions. First of all, with environmental partners that is doing the Arctic study, Rod, have we included in that, as a town, the impact of that significant drainage that is gonna come out of the septic systems as well as the structure that they build, and how that influences the existing drainage into the aquifer area? You know, does it kind of push any of it further toward Ferry 1 and 2, which are our cleanest wells? You know, and if so, that's a significant issue to be looking at. And then, the other would be, and I'm glad that town council came in, because this is something I want the board to think about doing, is asking town council to research whether or not there has been any contested litigated 40B projects that have occurred since basically all of the PFAS regulations came in with the DEP. I did a little bit of research of my own on landlaw.com, and there was a 6-page unit from an outfit called MHACR, which you probably know the acronym, I don't. But basically, it dealt with 5 towns. 2 of them were Wellesley, Ludlow, Stoneham, and Weston, and they went through the various reasons why the actions of the zoning issues and ZBAs in the various communities did not prevail over the 40B project. None of those, and these were for 2020 to 2021 in the review process, none of those involved an aquifer as an issue in any way, shape, or form, nor the current limits on PFAS for the 6 that the DEP is monitoring, along with the PFAS, the other 8 that they just look at that are not yet an item of concern and have not got a limit on them. And Bob, you can probably comment on where that's going better than anybody here in the room.
There's actually 40 chemicals.
There's 40 of them total, right? But I think there's only like 8 that show up though on the
Six
current testing.
6 that they're monitoring. There's a different, depending on what the calculation is, but there's a number of them.
Okay, but the bottom line comes down that, to me, I think we are the first one where there's plunking one down on top of an aquifer, where we have 3 well sites that have no PFAS noted. And the other thing, looking at it, is that, we're dealing with a situation where Ferry 1, Ferry 2, and Church Street represent 31% of the flow to the low zone of the town's water system. When Furnace Brook number 3 is online. When it's offline, we bump up close to 35% of the flow into the low zone. But in the immediate area of the butters on Ferry Street, it's probably someplace between 85 and 100% depending on the time of day, because the nearest tank that has any influence is up there on Telegraph Hill. And if you look at the general geography of that area, water flows the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is not toward the Ferry Street wells, but away from the Ferry Street wells, down toward the rest of the low zone. Whether it's where I live on Webster Street, or whether it's down in Brant Rock, that's where the water ends up. And the only pumping stations of significance after those well sites on Ferry Street basically are Skirgo and Webster 1 and 2. And one of the things we know, Webster 1 in particular has relatively high nitrate, within limits, but relatively high nitrate, but it also has relatively high PFAS. So we know that nitrates and PFASs go together. They come out of the septic system. And you have the latest memo I wrote to the ZBA, which includes the interdepartment report with regard to PFAS. And within that, there is some pretty significant, when you look at it, characteristics where it looks like both the regulator and the legislature may be moving toward stricter control with regard to PFAS getting into the water systems. They're trying to do it, eliminating the products from, the commercial area and stuff like that. And I mean, there are pages and pages of what those products are, and I know you're fully familiar with them. And it's virtually impossible to keep it out. Now, the other aspects of this stuff that I've heard at the ZBA is there's other houses there that already have septic systems, yes, they do. But all of those were in before we ever had any regulatory impact regarding PFAS. They're grandfathered, so to speak, if you like, the septic system's there, for whatever new regulations might come out. When the house sells, or if you have to replace your septic system, that's when you'd be hit with those regulations if there's a change. One thought I have is, if we find that there's, the study shows that the water impact is gonna be significant coming from environmental partners because of that, perhaps what we wanna do is on the effluent, as it comes out of the septic system itself, before it goes to distribution and percolation, put some carbon filters on it. Get the PFAS out before it gets into the ground. Maintain it, whether that's done as a town item to protect the water system or whether it's imposed on the developer. Those are my thoughts. That, and $2.50 and get you a good cup of coffee in most places.
Well, thanks, Dave.
Good sewer system would help too.
Yep, and well, that's an alternative would be to, run it out to when we run the one across South River, picking up the lowlands where Mike Resto lives. That was a project that was pending, as I recall.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. It's a possibility.
Yeah, you could put in a receiver and put a force main, run it down over the hill.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Rod?
So, the first question, it was addressed in our RFP. It's
Okay,
not-
so it's in there, I didn't see the
It was
article.
addressed in our RFP. It's not specifically in the language there, but, in general, we're looking at everything. We're gonna develop a kind of a desktop conceptual model, and look at all the impacts, We've got a drainage basin there. We've got Silver Pines. We've got, other developments coming up.
Spyglass.
Telegraph Hill. So everything's gotta be looked at.
And I have a correction to make. Dave Carrier, 34 Outlook Road.
Thanks, Dave. This is gonna be a real impact on our wells. And we just have to go forward with what we have with environmental partners.
Correct.
See that they do what they said they're gonna do, and come back with a report, but then after that report, we have options that we can move forward and change whatever they're gonna look at, so it's something that's more or less universal in the beginning, and this could happen anywhere in the town.
It could. Dave did bring up a very, very good point about the carbon filters. That was mentioned by our consultants. And it does work to an extent, but they have to be changed.
Yeah, and they are not, basically, once they collect PFAS, they are not recyclable.
Everything just deflects off of it. So it's something we need to look at. It's definitely an option, but I did ask Bob to come
Yeah.
to Attorney Galvin to,
I just need to know whether or not I can move ahead with the scope the way it's prepared right now.
that's what we gotta find out.
If that needs to be modified.
Mr.
You want
Galvin,
me to weigh in on the scope?
go right ahead,
Yeah.
Mr. Galvin.
I read the scope and I highlighted it, and I think I sent it back to Rod
Yeah.
and Sean, because I was concerned that it wasn't, the working hypothesis appeared to be that the development was a problem. And I'm concerned that if we don't also make sure that we don't have a problem with the salt shed or the landfill, we're missing an opportunity when we're studying that area. The developer is claiming that they're going to put wells or test wells in where the salt shed abuts this parcel. And the applicants, the former owner of the property is claiming that there's like off-the-charts sodium chloride showing up in his wells. I don't know whether that's the case or not, but that's what he claims.
We have to see the documentation on that.
Well, he just called me on the phone after the last ZBA hearing and mentioned that to me. And then I don't know how the landfill is constructed, I don't know how it's lined, I don't know whether it's lined on the bottom, but I have to imagine growing up as a kid here and having visited the dump as a kid, just about everything went into that dump, probably cars with fluids in them, and I don't know whether they were lined on the bottom before they were put in, but I'm gonna take a wild guess that they were not. We already know that methane gas comes right out of the top of them, so I have to assume that something is going down through the bottom, and groundwater goes through the top and gets down into it, so,
You're talking the Sylvester Ray landfill?
yeah. I mean, I don't know whether there are others that are contributory. I'm guessing that maybe the town's landfill on the opposite side is maybe going in a different direction,
Yes.
so I wouldn't think that that would be the case, but
Southfield.
you know, I think if you're inviting this, you know, firm in there to study the whole thing, they should study the whole area.
Well, that's
and
why
not
I
just-
said universal, it's,
But the scope isn't universal. The scope is very much directed to this project.
Towards the project, as
It's
opposed to
almost-
just
No,
studying it
it wasn't.
all.
There's no line, right? Everything points to no line.
Well, it is,
However, there is, and when we put supposedly went and put the wells in, there was a substantial clay layer at about 50 feet, which is
Below, above
Yeah.
the groundwater too?
Yeah, just between Grove Street and the property between Grove Street and the landfill.
That's good.
So there was a layer, and then there was fine sand below it, but there was a layer, so we might have the benefit of
Yeah.
that natural layer.
Well, I mean, I kind of heard that you were gonna study the whole aquifer. I think that's probably a great thing to do.
Yes,
But I didn't see the salt shed in there,
no,
and the scope of services appeared to be concerned with the development from nitrogen, the development from, in stormwater, the development from excavation, and development from PFAS. And I think we ought to know those things from the abutting town property as well, if they're out there.
So broad in scope.
Yeah, well, I think if you're studying the aquifer, I mean, I've always heard the board say, and past boards say, that the number one polluter of our wells are the private septic systems.
Right.
And, you know, there's 3,000 properties, according to the town planner, that are above this aquifer with about 2,500 conventional septic systems on there that have no treatment. And, you know, presumably when the septic system flows down through the 4 feet of pervious materials below the bottom of the leaching field, it's supposed to be clean, but
that's just for bacteria.
that's right, that's for bacteria. And, you know, half of those properties are probably putting a lot of fertilizers on there, which are loaded with PFAS. So, you know, I want to make sure that we don't come up with a study that can't be contradicted, you know, from other source. In terms of Mr. Carrier's question, to my knowledge, there are no PFAS cases at the Housing Appeals Committee to date. One of the cases that he talked about, is the Stoneham case, was my case. So that was a case where the town of Stoneham had a property called Weiss Farm, and he'll see that in a second when he gets to the case blurb on it.
right there.
It's about a 50-page decision which
Yes.
explains in great detail why the town of Stoneham couldn't reduce the scope of a 250 unit apartment project down to like 150.
Yeah, I think it's on the third.
In any event, explained in great detail why none of the local regulations outweigh the regional need for affordable housing. And anytime there was expert testimony that was offered by the town, including some pretty good traffic impact assessments, the Housing Appeals Committee found that information not to be as credible from the applicant.
Word circle. 259 to 124.
In any event, the town lost that case badly. And that project is being built right about now, 256 units. None of the reductions were done. And I heard Dave talk about grandfathering. This is the bylaw that Dave authored is a general bylaw of the town. There's no such thing as grandfathering. It applies to every property and retroactively. It doesn't apply, it might apply to new construction, but it applies to all new construction.
Yes.
And that means all new construction on single-family homes, all new construction on commercial and industrial properties, and all new properties that are multifamily, and it's not being enforced.
Well, did you, if I might, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Okay, Dave Carey, Albert Road. Did you proceed with the addition of the building inspector onto the notification under 285-19.1 for the coming town meeting? I provide Sean the language for that, which just basically, he's one of the people notified, so that he is making sure that when, what town council has just mentioned, you know,
Yeah,
is
change.
informed to people when they go to do their work.
We did ask for that to be put in.
Yeah.
Is it?
You have submitted it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we recognize
I
it.
mean, there's houses being built today in the town of Marshfield that are brand new construction, and there's no assessment of PFAS from those homes.
Are they in fact in zone 2 or zone 1?
They are zone 2 homes.
Okay,
So
I don't know which-
it only applies to zone 1 and zone 2 homes.
correct.
Okay, but there is new construction going on, and there is absolutely no attention being paid to this.
Which zone 2 is it being done in?
Well, near my office,
Huh?
near my office, in the zone of the Webster Wells, there's been new construction.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm familiar with your office in Duxbury, I beg your pardon. I was wondering where you
But I
go.
live in Marshfield,
I
next
know
to
you
you.
do. I didn't realize you were working out of your home office.
Red Gold,
Huh?
Red Gold Farm.
Red Gold Farm.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
there's-
they should be.
well, there shouldn't be any building going on there until such time as this compliance with that regulation. And the reason I bring this up is because if there's not compliance as it relates to single-family home, I can guarantee you, there'll be no one that pays any attention to this on a state
Yeah,
level.
that's perfectly appropriate that, you know, we are enforcing it and, you know, it's.
So it's gotta start to be enforced.
That has to be enforced now, or it's not gonna be an argument.
There'll
Well,
be
I
no,
Could be.
there'll be no new, I mean, here's the problem, there's 1,500 or so chemical, or products
Yes.
that, you know, have these chemicals in them. They're in the lining on your coat, they're in the toothpaste that you use, they're in the washing machine detergents that we use for our clothing, and they're everywhere, and they're going into the ground. And I'm not even sure that there's a listing yet of all of the products that contain all of these things, and, you know, I don't know whether it's, you know, I'm sure pressure-treated wood probably has some type of a PFAS chemical involved in it at some point. And there's probably pressure-treated wood used on,
Most of the pressure treated wood is actually cuprinol,
I don't.
which is a copper toxic type substance. Which is why we got
Is
rid
that a
of them,
PFAS?
that's why we got rid of them for the old playground by the high school.
My point is, it's in everything.
Yeah.
It's on the Teflon pans, it's on the linings of people's coat. I don't even know if there's a registry of all the products that PFAS is in. I mean, I assume it could be on the coating of a stainless steel nail. You know, I don't even know what they're with, but my concern is that it's not being enforced. And if it's not being enforced for single-family residences, you can count on it, the state not enforcing it against multifamily residences. And it'll look like it is unequal enforcement, and it won't work.
So going forward, what do you suggest so we can get this contract off?
Well, all I was suggesting was that you ought to expand the scope to make sure you included the salt shed area and the landfill area.
Okay.
But
Mike, again, Mr.
I have
Chairman.
a question for you. Is there no solution to the PFAS argument, because it's impossible to enforce it on building that's happening now?
I don't think it's impossible to enforce it, but I don't think you're gonna see any new construction because it's gonna be tremendously burdensome.
Everything would have to stop.
There are construction products out there that do not contain PFAS. Your simple framing material doesn't contain it. Okay? Your nails don't normally contain it. Stainless steel nails and screws do not have PFAS in them, they don't need them. Okay? You're talking to somebody with a fairly strong background in metallurgy. Now, there's one thing I wanted to try to get in, Mr. Chairman, Dave Carey, 3 Rutland Road, and that is the fact that I have sat with the building inspector and made him aware of the bylaw. So as things are being done, he should be informing people of the bylaw. That is his obligation,
Right.
once he knows. And it was published, it's in the bylaws, you know, anybody that's acting as a department head has an obligation to be fully familiar with those bylaws that affect them.
Well, let me ask you a
So
question.
I just typed into my computer, products with PFAS in construction materials. Paints and coatings,
Yes.
adhesives, caulk, cable and wire, flame retardants, fabrics, insulation, cement additives, carpeting, flooring, gaskets, roofing, Teflon, glass surface treatments, any types of solvents. That's just like, 15 of the 1,500 products that it's in. And there's no, it may be, and I'm not saying that, Dave's bylaw is a good thing. I mean, we're gonna have to deal with PFAS sooner rather than later. But I'm not sure that there's a cohesive list of all of the building materials that have PFAS in them, and if there is, I'm not sure how you build and what that adds to the cost of construction. That gets to my other point. Even if a developer would agree to supply a list of all of the materials that they would use in their construction that had PFAS in them, and what they could use in order to avoid PFAS, if the cost to exclude those materials renders the project uneconomic, they don't have to comply.
The bylaw is written where it is not something that can be substituted with a non-PFAS material. They have to just merely come up with, how are you going to keep it during construction from getting into the soil so it doesn't get into the groundwater? That could be done through a number of ways, okay? It doesn't block people from doing the work, nor from using a product for which there's no substitute. That was the way the language was put in.
Look at how, I'm just trying to point out,
I
if a
understand where you're
developer
coming from.
comes in and says, it'd take me a year to research what products I would have to use instead of doing this, and they're a 40B developer, they can just say, I'm not compliant. But the single-family house resident cannot.
Okay, but the bottom line is, the state of Maine has implemented this, and there's still construction going on in the state of Maine.
Okay. Brings us to me, Ms. Shaw, we're gonna broaden the scope.
Yes, we can do that. Right, Rod?
Add the salt shed
Yep.
in, and also, the landfill, you're referring to the Raven.
Ray landfill.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the only one that would be contributing, right?
It's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on how hard they pump, when I look at Pat's, model, theoretically, if they had a drought, they might be able to change the groundwater flow past. But generally speaking, the divide, the upgrade, divide for that, the zone 2 divide is about Playford Road. And everything, from a topography standpoint, slopes off towards Moritz, basically, that way. And towards our other wells. But, yeah, so, probably not our landfill. But the Ray landfill possibly. But the thing is, it should have got to our wells by now. I mean, it's been there for a long time. So it could just be stagnant, because we haven't really pumped our wells very hard. We haven't got into a zone 2 condition where we are pumping for 180 days without, recharge. It could be just, we just haven't experienced it, and it's just sitting there, and it hasn't moved yet. But that's what the hydrogeologist will help us with, hopefully.
And I would like to
looking
point
at
out,
the-
excuse me,
Spyglass, which way does Spyglass go?
I don't know, the leaching field is sitting basically right on top of the hill, and the cul-de-sac up there. The actual treatment facility is on the downside. The
Does
groundwater
it go
probably
to-
flows towards the South River
On the other side.
on the other side, probably. But our zone 2 does extend beyond that now, because of other wells that we've added to the system. And, all our wells are pumping all at once, and, during a non-recharge situation, it could very well get to that, reach out to that zone 2 area, delineation, which extends beyond the hill. So it's possible that it could go a reverse direction back towards our wells, but I think in general, there's been a couple of studies basically saying that there's like a northeasterly component to the flows now under normal pumping. And then when it's really pumping, it just moves to the north, so it's almost like a direct line. But again, they're gonna look at we have a lot of information available to these guys, and they'll be able to, and they have the qualifications. They're hydrogeologists, and they've done, this contaminant transport. So they have the qualifications to look at this.
So this particular study that we're doing is going to determine where the data gaps are, and more likely there will be a phase 2 to this.
Possibly.
Okay.
But I'll have that salt shed and
I'm sorry,
There's one in the back.
I'm done.
You all set?
Yes.
Excuse me, Rod. Go ahead. Ma'am, go ahead.
Question I would add
No,
to.
no, behind.
Oh, sorry.
Laura Olson, Ferry Street. This question is to Rod. When you said right now, it seems like it's all contained? Because you said you're just saying, I know, it's possible that there are things in there, and if there were, they're surprised that
it
it
would have
would.
moved through the aquifer by now, we would
Right.
have seen them somewhere. They did do some testing. Horsley and Witten put in a couple wells, and we didn't find anything along Grove Street,
Would they,
10 years ago, I think it was.
would the hydrogeologist be looking at scenarios if fill was to be taken out of there?
Yes,
Would
they're
it
gonna look at
disturb it?
Yeah, they're gonna be commenting on
Okay.
that. Yeah, they're gonna be looking at the impact from the fill, the impact from the stormwater, the impact, and they're also looking at, silver pines, that's dense over there, they're looking at that, and then other areas that might be contributing, like, it's possible that spyglass comes in that direction. I don't know, but it's at the top of the hill, and in general, from the other studies that I saw, it seemed like the groundwater was moving away from, let's say, Grove Street towards the South River. But that's not to say that, it could reverse directions, and that's what these guys would have to look at to see if that's the case. And we might have to pop in a few more groundwater wells for them to get a better handle on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody said, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, Tim Williams, 49 Mayflower Lane. My parents are on 616 Ferry Street, and they do see some storm runoff from Spyglass. So they're beyond the automotive repair shop on the right-hand side, and they get some runoff from the hill that comes all the way down by Eagle
Right.
Farm that way, but that's a,
That comes out of their
Yep.
detention basin,
Yep.
which is, it has an overflow, and it flows back towards Grove Street, and it's intercepted there, and it ends up in Little's Creek.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead,
One of
Ed.
them,
I'll get
So I think it would be a good idea for EPS to talk to Ed Pesci and Pat Brennan, because the information I noticed that was in there is outdated. They've actually altered the type of septic system they're using. They have the old information or the original information. They've already changed that system. And you might want to tell EPS that the Board of Appeals is expecting a presentation from the septic system company on March 12th.
Okay.
And I think they'd want to be there because there's some opinions that they have regarding nitrogen and how their system works and to remove nitrogen. I would think that they'd want to watch that or be present. I'm sure that the ZBA meeting will be in person and in Zoom.
But they are looking at all septic system scenarios in the study, because.
I don't think they're looking at the other septic systems in the aquifer.
Well, they're gonna be reviewing the proposed build-out that was done in 2000, I wanna say 10, but it could be before that, by Ed Eichner. Ed Eichner did a build-out for nitrates, so that, and he looked at the entire aquifer and classify, different areas that, land that wasn't developed would be, like if it was town-owned land, it would be included for,
Right.
any kind of development.
So you assume to build out in a certain amount of nitrogen going into the
Yeah.
ground from
Right, they'll be
potential
looking at
septic
that,
system?
they'll be looking at that. And, and Silver Pines is included in that as well.
Yeah, because all that stormwater runs down off the hill and into this property, right?
Spyglass Spyglass may not be in that study, we'll make sure that they know that exists.
Yeah.
And,
I know the detention basin, from our prior experience with the property owner, is
Yeah.
Collecting the Silver Pines waste.
yeah, a good part
stormwater,
of
right?
Wyoming and Waltham goes down, collects, goes across there. Yeah, it's not tied in up there, but it's all the water's coming down from there. And, yeah.
Okay, you got any questions, sir?
Yeah, the question is, if the wells become contaminated, question one is, what would be the process to try to clean it, or will they affect the other aqua filters in the area? And part two is, if you'd have to close down those wells, would the town have enough water from all the other wells to supply the town with water?
I can tell you this, the Board of Appeals won't approve this if it's gonna contaminate the wells. So we'll just get it right out on the table. They won't approve this if it's gonna
Okay.
contaminate the wells.
If others are done. Okay, Dave Carey, 3 Houghton Road. Within this interdepartmental report, on page 29, under groundwater and soil, okay, it said, this is, the pertinent part comes at the last sentence on that page and it carries over the next page. In December of 2019, Mass DEP released, and Bob, I'm sure you're familiar with this, the final PFAS-related revisions to the Massachusetts contingency plan that establishes reportable concentrations and cleanup standards for PFAS in groundwater and soil. The new rule sets a limit of 20 parts per trillion for the sum of PFAS 6, the 6 that are currently regulated and limited, okay, in groundwater, and 0.3 and 2 parts per billion in soil. Massachusetts is one of only a handful of states with the cleanup standards for PFAS contamination in groundwater and soil. So there is a DEP standard which bears on the construction aspect of what's going to be happening here. This is not dealing with basically a wastewater regulation yet, but it is there during the construction period. They have to basically adhere, as far as I'm concerned, to our bylaws, anyone else should. Otherwise, we get to sample the soil and see if there's any PFAS in it.
The problem is it's a 40B, so they don't have to adhere to the local standard, but they do have to adhere to the state
This is a
standard.
Mass DEP standard.
I know, but you just said that they had to adhere to the local standard. The problem with the 40B project is they don't have to adhere to the local standard, but they do have to adhere to the state and federal standards.
They do if, in fact, what we require is supported, we get into litigation, and it's approved and supported. As I mentioned before, the stuff that I've read that has been gone through litigation has never dealt with potential damage to an aquifer.
But you asked a question, and you were looking at us, and I don't really have an answer for you. I know it'll be a lot of money, it'll be a lot of task involved, and we're doing our due diligence, not that ever happened. But I don't have an answer for you right now.
I mean, like you mentioned all these chemicals, there's probably one that we don't even know about yet that can contaminate it. And if you had to close those wells, would the town have enough water, or the taxpayers have to be burdened on drilling a lot more wells in town to accommodate that water supply to the town?
Well, there's no more water supply sites.
That isn't a big issue there.
So,
So we should look at that at the same time.
You'll be taking the water out of the ocean or the North River or something, desalinate.
A satellite full thing, put a hot barge in there.
We're doing what Duxbury's doing. Duxbury's
Question.
planning to install
Right.
PFAS treatment.
Furnace Brook 1, when we redid the plant with the 2 big new
Vessels.
charcoal filters,
Yeah.
what did that cost us? Remember? something in the $1 million range, as I recall.
Oh, yeah, it's expensive, a couple million dollars.
And
Really
so, I mean, basically, carbon filters are successful for most of what's being regulated currently, and they are a significant cost. The town of Air, and I happen to be familiar with this because my son lives there, one of my two sons, they spent $20 million on one of their well sites just to clean it up. Now, they have the other issues because they are within, this particular well was within the area where Devon's had contaminated the water supply. They had to put in a mixed bed demineralizer system as well as carbon filtering in order to handle that. And that 20 million doesn't take into account the fact that those products, once they've collected the PFAS, don't become recyclable, which means that you're not getting an exchange on your carbons when you get rid of them. And probably after X numbers of regeneration of the mixed bed demineralizers, they're gonna break down.
So Ron, you're saying that all our wells now are running at full capacity to supply the town with
No,
water?
they're not running at full capacity.
But about,
We have, no. No, they're not running, they're running at a half capacity, let's put it that way. Well, I'm saying they run, for periods of time, they run,
higher than.
yeah, but on the average, I think they're running about half. And the water supervisor could state that better than I can, but roughly half.
And how much comes from
Because,
Ferry?
how much comes from Ferry? Well, Ferry Church,
Ferry Church, two ferries in Church Street amount to
1,400 gallons a minute or something.
Third of the water supply?
1,500 gallons, out of 4,700 that come into the low zone. I was doing the numbers the other day.
So that's a third.
Third.
Roughly a third of the low zone
So
area.
to answer your question about if these wells get contaminated, this board and the staff, we're gonna have to come up with a strategic plan to determine what we're going to do. Treatment is a very expensive, as Dave said, because once you put the carbon in there, the PFAS picks up on the carbon, but it also releases the PFAS back into the system when there's the iron and other items in there, it releases it. Sewer system, to expand the wastewater treatment plant and the lines that go up there. We'd have to look at that and look at a cost resident. Whatever we do, all the people in Marshfield are gonna know about it. And it's gonna go to town meeting and we're gonna have the technical background to support that. It's not just gonna be somebody thinking about it, it's gonna have solid background from a technical and engineering standpoint for whatever we do. I hope they don't contaminate it. I hope it doesn't get passed, this 40B does not get passed, but it's a real good idea to look at the aquifer from a conceptual, we call it conceptual site model of all the things in there. Not just with this one development, but everything else that's going on out there, is to protect our water supply. So even if this 40B wasn't even there, it's still a good idea to do a conceptual site model, to know really what is the plan to protect our wells in 5 years or 10 years?
50 years.
From all this build out that's in Silver Pines and elsewhere.
Yeah, you mentioned one other thing, you said to run a sewer line to the sewer treatment plant. We did that a couple of years ago to include the town. And did that add enough, I think it's pretty much a capacity, that sewer treatment plant. So if you ran another line from there, you would have to expand the sewer treatment plant maybe?
Chances are we've outlined a couple of areas. We did Black Mountain on a conceptual basis, we did Kent Park on a conceptual basis. And there might be a little bit more capacity, but you'd pretty much be running up against the capacity of the plant at that time, if you included those areas in. Or maybe a little bit more.
Because our sewer rates went up before you ran it to the town, the sewer rates were reasonable, and then when you ran the town, and sewer rates all went up.
Yeah, they are.
Well, they went up drastically, that jump when the town was included in there.
Well, I mean,
So,
So he's talking about?
yeah, and so if you run this new development, is that gonna happen again?
you got an old
And why
plant.
should
You got an
all the
old
people that
plant.
are in the sewer plant right now pay for someone else?
They're paying for the
They pay their full share
additional
of the cost.
capacity of that plant. They've always, I mean, because the town's not pitching in on the capital improvements right now. The users are paying the whole
That
rate.
needs to change.
That has to change.
That has to
It's
change.
You
gonna,
have to go back to 60/40.
Yep,
something. There's just no way that the users can afford it.
Sewer 2000 was split 60/40.
remember this?
Yeah. But that was the, that expansion was split.
And if there's a new sewer, there'll be more users on the system.
It'll all
That
tie
will-
in.
that will pay for it, and there'll be an entry fee into that.
Usually that's waived.
And we'll basically come up with a strategic plan to deal with it, with public comment and input.
Mr. Chairman?
Go right ahead.
To close this out?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Excuse me. I just want to say that the Board of Public Works and staff are doing our due diligence to make sure that this is done the right way. We're taking all the necessary steps to go forward and do a correct study that's going to tell us, give us the data we need to see how this is going to affect our aquifer. At the end of the day, the board is going to do everything they possibly can to protect our water, and so are we. And whatever it takes, we have to change wording in the contract to make this right. We have to move forward and do our due diligence to show that at least we're doing the right thing going forward. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's our stance on this.
That's right.
Protect the water.
100%.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, in closing it out, do we have to vote with the added language to that contract? Do we have to add?
No, we did at the last meeting when we did the,
No,
You just want to add the salt shed.
We added the
basically.
salt shed.
Well, because
I-
we said in all other considerations, so can it just be covered, and you can add salt shed under other
It's already
considerations?
under the previous vote.
Right.
Okay, we're fine with that.
So we can proceed tomorrow
Yeah,
with this.
right.
There's someone has one more question. I'm gonna take one more
Go
question.
ahead.
Just the last question, go right
It isn't
ahead.
a question. I would just like to say,
Will
I'm
we have your
Marcia,
name and address?
Marcia Ballou, 712 Ferry Street. I just want to say thank you to all of you for expediting and putting together this plan and the scope from all of us who are living close by, and I'd like to speak for others that I know that are members of Marshfield that live far away from these wells and this aquifer. We appreciate what you're doing very much, and just say thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on now to, what about the item, approval of the minutes of February 24th? I've read them. I have no problem with them. Thank you.
I'm okay with the minutes.
Yep.
Okay, I make a motion, we accept the minutes, February 24th, 2024. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Superintendent's report, might not be too much.
No, we pretty much touched on everything.
Yeah, we touched on
We're going
everything.
to start our paving analysis and get that ready for the spring and tackle some of these projects that will be good, taken care of. And the waste oil tank is up and running, the
What do
funnel
you
on
read?
there.
There's no funnel on it.
Yeah, there is.
Where?
It's right on top. It's about that big.
When did they put that in?
Last week.
Have you looked?
I went down and saw it. It was a funnel on top unless somebody took it off.
Maybe I'm looking at it.
Now I have to go look tomorrow. Make sure, but that was supposed to be taken care of.
I saw there was a zip tie on something. Looked like that was gonna be the inlet, but it's a zip tie.
There should be a funnel on there. It was here the other day.
We got security cameras.
Well, I guess I gotta go look. So scratch that.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
all I have.
All right,
These,
These I would like to address these next week.
Okay, next time, because you have to, you don't need to bring these to the select board yet.
No,
That's
I
not
want to
yet.
bring it
Yeah.
to you guys.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
got these at 5:30, so I want you to
Okay.
read them, and then we'll bring them up again
Right.
the next meeting. Oh, and the next meeting, I want to bring that young man that was here from the Boy Scouts that did the lagoon service.
Oh, good, yeah, for an update?
He finished it.
Yeah.
And I want to bring him before the board to show him what he did.
Oh, great, that'd be awesome.
All right,
That's all I have.
All right,
Okay,
all right,
great.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned.